Welcome to episode 3 of Chop Talk. It's us. We're in the flesh finally. We made it. Uh, Today we were planning on doing it in person, but poor Ryan here has got some COVID. He's got he's picked
Possibility.
something up. Yeah. He's sick with something. And we opted out of going in person, but you've got us here on camera at least. For the last episode, I'm sure we'll do like an in-person thing like we said we were going to do at the beginning, but this is what we got going on now. How y'all doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Banging, man. I'm good. I'm great. I probably shouldn't ask Ryan. I'm sure he's not doing as good as he could be, but
I'm
you know,
making
I
it
asked.
happen.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, so as we discussed last time, we're going over some movies. We're going to review some stuff. This episode, we decided on a classic, a cult classic, Silence of the Lambs. One of my favorites, one of my favorite like psychological, like almost like a crime solving movie in a way, right? What'd you guys think?
It gave off way too many creepy vibes.
Yeah, it is definitely a fucking creep fest, dude. It
I like
it
doing my rabbit hole stuff, so I know I did a little bit of digging when I could. But yeah, I remember watching this one when I was younger, and it threw me for something for sure. A lot of twists at the end. You got to think about it a lot. But other than that, great piece of film, no doubt.
exactly. Yeah, I think Hannibal Lecter as a character is probably one of the most interesting in like horror thriller media ever. The way Anthony Hopkins plays him. I don't know if he won an award for that shit, but I should actually look that up. I'm very curious because his work in that was just incredible. I've never seen a creepier character, to be honest.
And then you just never see him blink either. You just,
Yeah, right. Yeah, he won Academy Award Best Actor in 1999, as he fucking should have.
you it was know, a five-time Oscar too. No,
Yeah,
yeah,
obviously,
makes
right?
sense.
hmm What did you think was creepy about it, Garrett? What was like some of the creepiest moments?
I mean, just like any film or TV show or anything, if the serial killer or the person behind bars knows everything about your life and progressively just gives you more information about your own life, you just know it's going to be creepy from there.
Yeah, I think that's another interesting bit of his character is the choice to make him like an accomplished like
Yeah.
psychologist is a terrifying combo because he already is analyzing you at every second and knows basically everything about you. Um, Really, really creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, not not something to take too kindly. And he's like always at like the upper hand with that as well, which you can kind of
Yeah.
see throughout the film. He's kind of like taking these positions of power, especially like when it's him and what's her Starling, Jodie Foster's Clara
Yeah.
Starling. Um, those two interacting specifically are it's like a battle almost, really. And she's always at a disadvantage. So it's really cool to see that. Um, he's also And it's also interesting because you could argue Hannibal's kind of like in the film, a lot of people it feels like disrespect her. The police
Yeah.
people like in the funeral home, her boss. Um, I'm sure there's some other examples, but she's struggling through like womanhood basically as like a woman cop in the 90s. Like it's hard to get
Yeah.
respect. Um, but it feels like he kind of almost respects her in a way, especially, with that scene with Miggs, kind of doing his thing, and then that really creepy bit where they're on the phone and he was saying, or her boss, what's the boss's name again? I forget. Um, the head. Oh God, I'm forgetting. Whatever. Her boss basically like calling her to tell her, Miggs died because Hannibal Lecter was like whispering terrible, terrible things into his ear, which, as a psychologist, he knows how to get in your brain. It's really scary.
Yeah.
Big time
Yeah.
manipulator too,
Hmm.
especially with him with Bill. I don't know. I dug into this a little bit, and like we know, Bill was trying to go through some type of transgender, transsexual
Yeah.
something going on, and that's why all his victims were women. He was trying to build that skin suit, but
Hmm.
I think that was Hannibal's fall guy in a way, where like um, he knew in order to get out of this prison, this like max security prison, having knowing so much about Bill and manipulating him in a way where he's in this psychological warfare with himself and his identity, instead of Hannibal being there to like help him with that, he dug into him more and told him this is the solution, this is what you need to do, and manipulated him in that way where he would just kill people and turn into a serial killer because of that. And Hannibal knew the only way he'd be able to get freed from the prison was him knowing all this stuff about Bill, and that's why the
Yeah.
FBI and people would let him be free, in order to gain his assistance and that. So that was interesting to think about that. Like he knew this from the very start what he was doing with it, and this is how his way of getting out was going to be through this.
Yeah. It's really interesting.
It's those
I didn't know that.
psychologists. They just mess with your brain and then it's over from there.
Yeah, it's really over. Oh man, I think one of my favorite bits was that first scene where they were walking up, um, and like she was just getting to like the what do you call like the ward, I guess, like going down
Oh
past
yeah.
all these gates and shit. That first scene where she was called to Crawford. That was her boss, Crawford's
Oh,
office, right? And she was like getting a rundown of everything he um or she should be wary of. I think that segue into like them walking down and kind of going over shit is really creepy. And they're like saying, like what happened to that nurse who like leaned over him and he like ate, so I forget, it was like he ate her like jaw off or something.
yeah.
And his pulse stayed at like 85 the entire time. I think that's frankly genius. Like that's and during that too, it's got like these red harsh lights on him, like as he's making this like crazy revelation that do not fuck with this guy. Yeah, he's really dangerous. Um, yeah, it's scary.
Yeah.
I think another interesting bit was that thematic bit of like transformation, because that's clearly like the main focus of the film, as or like one of the main themes,
Mhm.
him like transforming, or actually multiple characters kind of transforming, because you got Buffalo Bill obviously like physically wanting to change themselves by like kidnapping women and like taking off their skin to make a dress. Uh, Fucking creepy, by the way.
Yes.
And Hannibal going into like asking if it's a butterfly or asking if it's like a moth. Like him knowing that straight off was also kind of interesting, but it's interesting that it's a moth as opposed to a butterfly, because butterfly you kind of associate with positivity, right? Like it's beautiful. Which was all over Buffalo Bill's home that he took over. Like imagery of butterflies, like this beautiful positive thing. But what was actually the actual insect that he was like breeding and stuff was a moth, which is frankly, it's basically like a pest. You kind of like want to kill them and get them out.
Yeah.
So they're kind of associated with like a bad change, like a bad transformation, which is a good parallel because obviously his transformation, what he's doing, the way he's going through with it, killing people and taking their skin and making a suit with it, probably a bad transformation, not a good way of going through with it, right? So it's kind of
Sure.
creepy.
I think what
I
also made
never
it,
knew.
I go ahead,
Go
Ryan.
ahead. Go ahead.
I think another thing that made it really creepy was that he had those mannequins of like a woman figure mannequins all over everywhere, from the
Mhm.
storage unit to the car to the house that he was in. It made it even more creepier.
Yeah, exactly. And like learning that the first victim was like a expert tailor or something. So I
Yeah.
guess and then that and learning like that hint we got a while ago from Hannibal, like that people covet and people like see what's in front of them and want it, which was the first victim. So, Jody or Clarice went and like investigated on that and figured out, oh, hey, let's figure out where this is coming from. And she ends up at Miss Lippin's house after asking a few friends of theirs. Turns out that's exactly where it was, while everybody else was, I don't know, they were in like Chicago or something. Like they were all in
Oh yeah.
Canada. They were in somewhere random, and she was the only one that could take over. Which, by the way, that last scene, what are your thoughts on that? I thought that was really tense with the that crazy switch with like the goggles and shit where it went night vision when
Oh
they
yeah.
turned off the end.
Yeah, that
That was
was
scary.
it was scary and yeah,
Yeah, like all the audio basically cuts out. It's really like kind of unexpected. Um, I
it
also
wasn't.
think it's kind of dumb. I think Buffalo Bill really, I don't know why they didn't cock the gun earlier because that was the only reason they failed. Like there were like multiple times they could have just taken Clarice down.
Yeah.
But I guess that's a misplay. I don't know.
I think especially with those night vision goggles where we seen it when he abducted the senator's girl, the last girl that he had in his dungeon or whatever it was. I just totally forgot about those night vision goggles after he took her, and then all of a sudden they're back, and he's using them in his own house to chase down this. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
extra
it's it's
creepy.
Chekhov's gun, man. Like you see it earlier, it's going to be used later.
Yeah,
Were you saying something earlier, Ryan?
I was just trying to remember what the fascination over the moths were because you see them everywhere with
it was
uh
like because it was um the moth turns into the butterfly to a butterfly, and it makes you beautiful in your like soul or whatever. I think
oh, that's
that's what it
right.
was hinted at.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay, I remember
like it's
now.
supposed to grow
Yeah.
into something.
Yeah.
hmm I gotcha. Yeah. Trying to. I watched it right before I went to bed last night, and it was
Yeah, me too.
my mind is still fuzzy on it, so I'm
No,
like
you're good,
trying to
man.
piece it all together still.
Honestly, I'm surprised you even showed up today. I thought you were going to dip
Yeah,
out.
no,
Not of your own
trying.
fault, but
Yeah,
just like I'm glad you
Just trying
came.
to pitch in a little bit.
Yeah, we
Definitely not
appreciate
as
it.
vocal as I usually would be, but we'll make it happen.
Yeah, we got to have the three amigos here for to get the full experience.
yeah, definitely.
What did you guys think of that like the backstory of Clarice? Because that was another like I guess like a side story almost kind of going on with like Hannibal like always kind of like pushing her to that quid pro quo thing they were talking about like I tell you something about the case, you tell me something about your life. Um so she talked about like running away and Hannibal obviously one of his quirks, I think he's obsessed with solving things. He became a psychiatrist, and he kind of won't answer for a good bit. He wouldn't answer any of her questions until she told him why she left the ranch when she was a kid, because I think that's where she was. She was an orphan for a while, went over to this ranch, and that's kind of where the movie name comes in. Silence of the Lambs, which is like literally paralleled to this story that happened, like with the lambs screaming in the barn and them like being slaughtered. Like she woke up in the middle of the night and heard lambs being slaughtered.
Yeah,
Because she was on a ranch and obviously that's kind of what happens. So she runs down there and sees this and as like a little 10-year-old, she tried to carry a lamb and run away with it. Um, and she didn't, she only made it like 2 miles and like a police car went and like returned her back. And she was kind of making this point of like, I want to save one. Like I tried to save like one lamb and I couldn't even do that, which is kind of what she's also trying to do with Buffalo Bill, because Buffalo Bill has a lamb, which is one of the girls. So I guess like the pot, like the point is she eventually did silence the lambs in a way, even though she says she's not really sure. Like she kind of fulfilled her destiny in a way because she saved the one lamb of the little girl, which I think is cool,
Yeah.
including that. I was always, when I rewatched this, I was kind of trying to rethink what the hell the name of the movie meant, and I couldn't remember it all. So it was cool seeing that for a second time. It was very interesting.
For sure. I'm trying to just think about what we're gonna watch next now,
True.
possibly for the
That's something
final
we could
episode.
work out here for the final episode.
I mean, we can just wrap up thoughts if we want on this one. I feel like covered a lot on it, but
I
Yeah.
agree.
I
Um,
would say just going back to like the film overall where it's the womanhood of what it Claire's or what's her name?
Clarice, yeah, I always
Clarice.
mess it up too. Yeah.
How like in back in those times it was like very rare for women to be of power per se. And I think that showed in the movie where she had to try to prove herself and she was doubted along the way until the very end. And she, like everyone, I think they were, her boss was just trying to throw this out there because nothing else was working, not thinking it was going to work to get to him to find,
Mhm.
um, what was it? Buffalo Bill.
Yeah.
And then turns out she went on, found Buffalo Bill, and then in the end, she became a FBI agent. So I think it was just with the times, how it now, especially now, how it's evolved. But
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
for sure.
I would absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, my point would just be being like I think they did an incredible job on showcasing the depth of these characters, not just like a front face value, you see them as they are, but
Hmm.
from Clarice to Hannibal to Buffalo, they really showcase all their layers as a character, and you really get to see every bit and piece of them. No, nothing's hidden. And the way the actors and actresses, portrayed these characters is like flawless. Like
Yeah.
you get so involved with their growth and progression throughout the movie that like so I think it's such a great piece of work. Like it it scared me pretty bad the first time I watched it. I was like 13, but
Yeah.
it was rewatching now you can really appreciate what thought and how much effort was put into it with those castings and everything. So I think that was pretty important.
Yeah, I think the casting was fantastic. I think one of my favorite parts was actually that end scene as well. I don't know if you guys noticed, but like for the first time I watched it, I didn't notice. I kind of thought he was just walking off into the distance. But there's that person he was trailing was the warden, like Kilton. So that's the person who came out of the plane and started walking down the street. And that's, that iconic last phrase he says, I'm having a friend for dinner, and he, shuts off the phone. So he's kind of he's gonna take vengeance for that warden treating
Oh
him
yeah.
so poorly, which was cool. I did not see that last time I watched. Probably because I was a kid and I was stupid. But yeah, very cool.
Oh yeah. Great.
All right. What kind of just I think we can just, kind of spitball here. What kind of movie do we want to go over next?
I
Do we
mean,
have any ideas?
I'm all about the psychological thrillers like this one. So
True,
anything of that
definitely.
nature, I'm all over. And we can, but then
I
there's
think we should
also
find
the
like a middle ground. We
yeah,
are
no, I'm
we
I'm
are Chop
I'm
Talk. I think we should do
yeah, I
like
am down to
kind of like
find
a
some
semi
thrashers
slasher.
and if we
Yeah,
get into some thrashers, we can talk about some production aspects of it and
Oh,
CGI and stuff like that too. So I'm open to whatever. I mean, you got your
absolutely.
extremes, but yeah, I find the happy medium there.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll get like some posts out on Instagram if we are gonna what episode we're gonna do, what the big
Definitely.
finale for our Chop Talk podcast is gonna be. But yeah, no,
Definitely.
follow us on YouTube. I think we're gonna have some YouTube shorts potentially coming out soon.
Especially with
Um,
this, with
oh
video
yeah,
now.
we have video now, so YouTube shorts are a possibility. Check our Instagram and which should be in the comments. And yeah, thanks for coming out, y'all.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Peace.
Peace.